combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live. And I've got another Jimmy Rants episode all ready to go for you guys here today. So thanks for joining me. If you're brand new to Jimmy Rants, head on over to JimmyRants.com and you can see how this works. We start off on Instagram Live. I talk to all the wonderful peoples down there and engage with them in a live conversation about the topic that I'm talking about. Then it's up for 24 hours on replay on Instagram. Then we head on over to YouTube and we post it there so you can see it forever and ever. Amen. And then finally we have a Jimmy Rants podcast. All of this, you guys, is housed at JimmyRants.com. Today's Jimmy Rants topic is one that's based on a lot of emails that I've gotten over the years. And especially with my Thursday podcast called Keto Talk with Jimmy Moore and Dr. Will Cole, where we answer questions from listeners all about low carb, moderate protein, high fat ketogenic diets. Inevitably, I will get a question that says something about this. Will keto help with the bursitis in my toe? Will keto help my hemorrhoids? Will keto help my cerebral palsy in my little girl? Will keto help this? Will it help that? Will it help that? And so the question here today that I want to answer is keto good for blank? And the bottom line there is you got to do a little footwork. But I will give the caveat up front. Keto is not a cure-all for everything. If you break your arm, go see the doctor. Gnawing on some butter and some meat and some non-starchy vegetables is not going to make your bone in your arm regenerate. Now, that is the perception that I'm sensing from a lot of people outside of the keto world of keto people. Well, they think it's a cure-all for everything. And so I want to be, as one of the leaders in this community, I want to make some sense of all this for you guys. So in the back of my book, Keto Clarity, Dr. Westman and I included 186 references to various scientific studies about the things that we said keto worked well for, okay? And mostly what keto works well for is any kind of inflammatory disease. So anything that would raise inflammation levels in the body, because it's a naturally anti-inflammatory diet. So it makes sense that it would lower inflammation once you eliminate grains and sugars and other things that would inflame you, okay? So the question, is keto good for blank? Fill in the blank. It's going to depend. And if you don't know the answer, here's a real quick way to see if there's any research out there. There is this new technology, maybe you've heard of it in the last, 10, 15 years, called Google. Type in ketogenic and whatever it is that you're looking for. And if there is some study, you will find it on PubMed and it'll pop up as a study and you can look at it. And sometimes the studies are a little bit hard for lay people to understand. But sometimes there's been articles written about the studies that make it a little easier to understand. But when people write to me and they say, is keto good for whatever the blank is, I always, first thing I do is go to Google. If I don't know the answer off the top of my head, I'll go to Google, I'll type in ketogenic and then what it is that they're asking about, and then I'll find some studies and I'll send them to them and let them go on their merry way. So while I appreciate the curiosity, and I think it's really awesome that people are wanting to know if keto is good for any given ailment, I think if there's research out there, you're going to find it on your own if you just do a Google search. Now, we know that keto is good for things like diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, you should be on a ketogenic diet. Because you need to restrict your carbohydrates, you need to lower your inflammation, you need to lower your insulin needs. Even a type 1 diabetic finds that they don't need to use as much insulin. Anything like PCOS that's related to insulin resistance. PCOS is a very polycystic ovarian syndrome, is a very specific disease that hits women, and so it's a sign of insulin resistance. I could go on and on and on with all these things that a ketogenic diet helps with. Definitely, if you haven't read my book, Keto Clarity, go pick up a copy and you can see all of the diseases that we know that it works well for, things that we have pretty good evidence for, and then things that are emerging in the science, things like cancer, Alzheimer's disease, some of the neurodegenerative types of diseases. We're starting to see hopefulness about a ketogenic diet helping with that. But if you have questions about, is keto good for blank, just put the blank in a Google search with the word ketogenic and you'll find out if it is. Now, I appreciate the engagement. I definitely want to keep hearing from people asking those questions, but it's always humorous to me when I get a one-liner, is keto good for, and then you fill in the blank, and I'm like, ugh. So sometimes on my Keto Talk podcast, we do a hot topic section at the top. So sometimes I'll throw those in there just to see what Will Cole, my co-host, thinks about it. But it is frustrating when all you have to do is really do a Google search. But let's see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. Thank you for being here, everybody. Hey, Jen. Will keto help my love life? Joshua, I'm happy to hear that it's helping your love life, my brother. That's awesome. Hello, Sam. Thanks for being here. Kat says elimination of highly processed carbohydrates and sugars for sure hardly harm somebody. Exactly. Ashton, hello. Other chemicals like crappy vegetable oils. Yeah, that's another one that inflames the body really bad. And people eat those in spreads and whatever's hiding in those middle aisles of the store or drugstore. What a joke. Yeah, big joke. That's the book I recommend the most. So good. Thank you, Sam. Talking about Keto Clarity. So happy to see you live. Subi367. Thank you for that. It has not healed my rotator cuff tear. Kent, no. Christine just went through that surgery and she's in recovery now. It's 2 months post-op and she's still struggling, trying to not be in pain. And so, yeah, you got a tough road ahead of you. But no, that exactly. It's those kinds of things that people are like, keto heals everything. It's the cure-all. And I'm like, no, slow your roll. I'm the keto guy, and it does not cure all. Let's be smart about this because you don't want to come across, like I said in a Jimmy Rants recently, as a raving lunatic. You want to be reasonable about this. So let's be very confident in what we do know keto helps with. And with things that we don't know, look it up, see if there's any research. And if there's not, then we look at what the pathway is that it might help. There's certainly no downside to eating that way for anything that you have going on. We just want to talk to you. Haha. Thank you, Bonnie Lene. Keto is helping my fibromyalgia. Excellent, Subi. And see, those are the kind of things that if you don't have any research, then the next thing to look for is on a Google search. Look on some keto boards and look what people are saying. If you got a lot of people saying that their fibromyalgia is gone, then you might say, okay, I have fibromyalgia. I want to give it a go and see how it does for me. So that's another thing that we got going on here. Macro Winning says it helped with depression, but I have PTSD. So yeah, it does help with depression. That's good because of the neurological effects. Keto helped me reduce my CRP. That's the key inflammation marker. Still some more to go. Jen T. Roast, good job. Yes, it will continue to lower your inflammation levels, especially when you remove every little thing that could inflame your body. So that's good. Keto Couple 333. Have you heard of low ketones and low blood glucose? Lately, I've been low 0.3 and 50s and 60s blood glucose. I eat mainly carnivore with a 1-to-1 fat to protein. Okay, so it's a little off topic from my Jimmy Rants, but because I like this question, I'm going to answer it. Yes, it could be that your blood ketone meter is defective, and or it could be that your body is so efficient at using ketones that you're not producing a lot of them. I would pay attention to how you feel in the midst of that. and see how you do. But 50s and 60s blood glucose, asymptomatic of hypoglycemia, then you should be good. That your ketones, don't worry about which ketones are, because 50s and 60s is really good if you're asymptomatic of hypoglycemia. Ashton says, keto has helped my fatty liver disease and diabetes. Yep, those are both on the spectrum of insulin resistance. Highly inflammatory conditions as well. So you reduce the inflammation, those get better. PTSD from childhood trauma, it hasn't cured that or my panic attacks, but it has helped. Yeah, it's little by little. And see, this is the other thing. If the severity of something you dealt with before is less, then it's helped. And I think sometimes people have these grand expectations, and we oftentimes see it within the realm of weight loss. Oh, I wanted to lose 50 pounds, but I only lost 30. And so people have these expectation levels that keto is going to help them to a certain level, when maybe you see improvement, but not all the way to where you thought you should have. It's still improvement. You got to remember that. So the bottom line here today in this Jimmy Rant, you guys, is keto good for blank? It's certainly not a grand cure-all for everything that's going to come your way. And we have to be very careful as people in this community articulating this, because people are looking on the outside and the perception is, oh, keto people think it's going to heal the world and it's going to cause world peace to break out and it's going to, whatever. And we have to be careful of being very sure about what we do know about keto, and then what we don't know, just say, hey, there's no downside to doing a ketogenic diet within the context of really anything, but it's not required outside of those things that we know that it works really well for. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. Thank you so much for watching, and go over to jimmyrants.com. And once you're there, you see how this whole show works. We start on Instagram Live, try to do about 1 or 2 times a day here on Instagram Live at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. And you can engage live like all these wonderful people did here today. Thank you for your wonderful comments, guys. Then you watch it on the replay for 24 hours. Then we pop it over onto YouTube, where you can see it forever and ever. Amen. And then we have a new podcast where we air snippets of the best from these Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. So guys, until next time, we'll see you then.